Hi Internet, welcome to my channel. I would be lying if I told you that I don't find this mildly terrifying. This is a hard subject to talk about for most people, and it's one that I have never talked about on a public platform before. I'm in a personal finance group chat, but even the people that I'm closest to in my personal life do not know the full extent of what's going on here. Because of that, I'm going to be faceless on this channel for the foreseeable future, and I hope that's okay with all of you. We're here today because I want to establish a new accountability platform for myself as I go through my debt payoff journey. I've been in a personal finance group chat on Discord for a long time, but for some reason my brain finds sharing this on a platform that anyone could stumble upon much more motivating, and I'm hoping that that will keep me on track as we go through this experience. Before we start, I should also tell you that I'm a licensed CPA, but I am not your CPA. This is not financial advice, and nothing that is said on this channel in the future should be taken as financial advice. I'm sharing this because I want people to know that even when you're a licensed financial professional, even when you should and do know better, this can still happen to you. I was in an honor society in college. We had CFPs come in and talk to us about financial planning and good and bad choices that we can make. So I did know, and this still happened anyway. So how did this happen? Before we continue, you have to know that my desire to clip that soundbite from Bill Wurtz's History of the Entire World, I guess, is extreme, but I will resist. In all honesty, this happened because of burnout and poor mental health. From mid-2020 through roughly the first half of 2024, I worked a job that ended up absolutely demolishing me psychologically. The first couple of years were okay, but in 2023 in particular, it really got bad, and I started to buy things that I didn't need to try to fill the emotional void. I had packages showing up multiple times a week. I was buying books and instruments and all sorts of things. While those were things that I use, it obviously didn't work. It didn't address the root cause, and it left me with a giant mess to clean up now. These days, I work a job where I am much happier. My base salary is almost 25% higher than it was at that previous position. I'm guaranteed at least 50% of my bonus every year as long as my performance is satisfactory. The other half is tied to company performance, which is almost entirely out of my hands, but we usually get at least some portion of that as well. And I've also been in consistent therapy for almost 3 years now, so I'm not emotionally spending like I used to. Time will tell, but I really don't think I'll end up in this situation again once I get out of it. You'll see as I start doing paycheck budgets that my salary is high enough, particularly for the area that I live in, that there really is no reason for me to need to be in debt, at least not anywhere near to this extent. So what is working and what isn't? This is something that I think is really important to talk about because even as we make mistakes and do things that we wish we hadn't, we also need to give ourselves credit for the wins. So I think it's pretty obvious what isn't working. I'm in debt. You will see how much very soon. And that's pretty self-explanatory. What is working is that even throughout all of this, I've never stopped saving, even when I went through a brief period of being laid off last year. I've also never missed a credit card payment or a student loan payment or anything in close to a decade of having a credit card. And I also managed to pay off my student loans earlier this year. Admittedly, I did graduate with less than $20,000 of student loan debt, so it's not like this is a story of one of those people with $70,000 to pay off, but it is still a relief that I got that paid off well in advance of the end of the 10-year payoff plan that I was on. Now for the question that everyone answers in these videos, why do I want to be debt-free? Stating the obvious here, being in debt is extremely stressful. It has felt entirely insurmountable for the last year or so. It's also getting in the way of other things that I want to do, like buying a new car and buying a house. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a sizey car repair bill in the next week or two since it started making a really weird noise last night, and I'm getting to the point in mileage where things are going to just start breaking on me. So I don't think it's going to be more than a few years, if I even get that long, before the economics make more sense to buy a new, to me, car. It'll probably be used. My current car was used when I bought it. than continuing to fix my current vehicle. Also, I used to have a credit score over 800. Like, I do know how this should work. I used to be very in control of it. I would really like to get back to that. It would open a lot of doors for me with these other things that I want to accomplish. What method will I use to pay off debt? I think everybody's familiar with the three most common ones, which are snowball, avalanche, and debt priority method. I guess you could say what I'm doing is kind of a combination of the avalanche and the debt priority method, but really it's the avalanche with one modification. My second highest interest rate card has one of my highest balances, while my highest rate card has one of the lowest. I've calculated the difference in payoff timeline, and it's roughly a month and $300 of interest. So I want to pay off the higher balance card before I move to the higher interest rate card. I'm hoping that I'll be able to get a 0% balance transfer offer on the higher limit card, which is the one with the higher balance, and then move a portion of my remaining balance to pay it down faster, which would end up eliminating the time and interest difference between the two cards anyway. I don't know if I will be able to get a 0% transfer on that card or any of my other ones, but I have gotten those offers in the past, and considering that I have been a consistent payer for so long, I'm hoping that if I were to call them and ask, I could potentially get one in the future once that balance is down. So we will see how that goes. Otherwise, I'm going to be paying everything off in the order of the interest rates on them, which is also coincidentally almost exactly the same as the snowball method. What income will I use to make these payments? Primarily my salary from my job. I'll also use whatever money I can make from selling some things that I have, which have been sitting in my garage forever that I just need to get out of my house. Whatever bonus I get will also largely go towards this, and hopefully I'll also have some side hustle money to put towards this. I have sold artwork in the past, and if I can make any money off of this channel, which I am not expecting, but if somehow I do, any of that money that I make will also go towards paying down my balances. With the exception of whatever needs to go towards taxes, because that is one of my pet peeves about personal finance channels on YouTube. They encourage you to go find a side hustle, and then they don't talk to you about the reality of the taxes that you're going to have to pay on it. And if you're in the United States in particular, I think that is doing you a huge disservice and a huge oversight on the part of those creators. As a CPA, even though I am not a tax accountant, it just drives me nuts. I e-file, Cash App Taxes does my taxes, but most people's 1040s are not that complicated, even if you do have side hustle income. So any side hustle money that I do make, I will be going through how I calculate estimated taxes if I need to pay them, and that whole process, because I do think it's really important, and I want to talk about those things and not just say, here's a gross amount of money that I made from this thing that I'm doing, and I'm going to put all of it towards everything, because that's just not how any of this actually works. When will I be making these payments? As soon as I get the paycheck that is applicable to the payment for that card. I'm trying to reduce whatever interest I pay by reducing my balance as early in the statement period as possible, as opposed to paying on the due date. Obviously, that adds up over the course of the year. On most of these cards, I'm saving myself $5 or $6 a statement period, which, again, does not sound like a lot, but when it's across 3 different cards, that is saving me probably $150 a year. So I think it's a worthwhile strategy to use. Now for the all-important question, how long will it take me to pay this off? The debt payoff calculator spreadsheet that everyone loves tells me that I will be debt-free in June of 2031. I believe that is extremely conservative, because all that I plugged into it was the absolute bare minimum that I expect to pay each month, which is more than the minimum payments, but not as much as I probably will pay. I also didn't take into account any extra payments that I may make, whether that is leftover money at the end of a pay period or bonus money, anything from future raises that I may get, interest that I saved because I'm paying earlier in the statement period rather than on the due date. It doesn't take into account any 0% balance transfers that I may end up with or anything else like that. I truly do think it will be earlier than what it is saying. I don't think it's going to be next year, as wonderful as that would be, but I do want to set the stage that I hope to everything that we will not still be having this conversation in 2031. I hope we're still having a conversation in 2031, but not this one specifically. ideally by then I will be moved on to living in a house and doing like home reno projects and stuff like that instead. What tools will I be using to track this? I have a debt snapshot worksheet here from the Budget Mom that I'll be using to list off my starting balances. I also have a budget by paycheck workbook here, and I will be using some of her debt payoff trackers just so that we can have some fun coloring them in. I haven't set them up yet, but I will do that after this video because you guys don't need to sit here watching me with a calculator. We can go over them when I start actually coloring them in. I also have a spreadsheet that I built for myself, which calculates the monthly amount that I've paid off per card, the cumulative amount that I've paid off per card, monthly and cumulative totals in both dollar and percentage form, and the amount of interest that I paid per month so that I can see how that's trending. I probably won't show you guys that one because it's pretty rough, but it's helpful to me to have the full picture of what's going on without having to sit down and pull my calculator out every single time I want to check in. Okay. With all of that said, let's get into this. I'm going to go ahead and pull all of my balances as of the most recent statement date. So some of them are going to be lower very soon because my statements are closing in the next few days, but I don't want to wait for that point. We're just going to do this now. I'm also going to pull the interest rates and the minimum payments, and I will report back when I am done. Okay, so that's all my totals pulled. I have 5 cards on here. I haven't listed out every creditor exactly because one of my cards is through my bank and the other one is through my credit union, and no offense, internet, but I don't feel like telling you which companies I work with for those. But everything else is on here. I also have a 12-month payment plan with a firm on here for the sewing machine that I bought earlier this year, which, for the record, has absolutely been worth the money so far. It has allowed me to make some repairs to some rather pricey things that would have cost far more to replace than the sewing machine did to buy. So I do not regret it, but it is on here. It does have interest on it. It's kind of irrelevant in that the minimum payment per month is just under $52, and that's not changing. So as good as it would be to pay it off early, it is the least of my concerns. But I did want to put it on here for the sake of full transparency about what interest-bearing debt I have outstanding at the moment. The creditors, the balances, and the interest rates that I have are as follows. 2 cards through Discover. The first one has a balance of $5,780.57. The interest rate is 27.24%. This is my highest rate card, and the minimum payment on it is $141 a month. The second card through Discover has a balance of, God help me, $25,919.07. The interest rate is 22.24%, and the minimum payment on that is $519. My Chase card, which is my second highest interest rate and the card that I would like to pay off first, has a balance of $17,102 exactly, an interest rate of 24.99%, and a minimum payment of $536. The Visa that I have through my bank has a balance of $22,690.84, an interest rate of 19.24%, and a minimum payment of $595. My last card, which is a Visa that I have through my credit union, has a balance of $2,762.78. 2 interest rates because one of them is a promotional rate for the balance that I transferred over earlier this year, which is 2.9%. And then once that promotional period is over at the end of the year, it will go back up to 12.9%. The minimum payment on that card is $52 a month. And then, as already mentioned, we have my Affirm payment plan, which has a remaining balance of $415.63, an interest rate of 23.78%, and a minimum payment of $51.96. In total, I owe $74,255.26 on my credit cards, and $74,670.89, including my Affirm payment plan. It is a terrifying total, and looking at it is making me nauseous, even though it is not really a surprise. I am a Monarch user, not sponsored, so I do always have a rough idea of where I stand on this, but that doesn't make it any easier to look at laid out on paper. My total minimum payments per month, just on my credit cards, is $1,843. My total minimum payments, including the Affirm payment plan, is $1,894.96. I am literally paying a mortgage payment and credit card payments per month, which is why I need to get rid of this, because as soon as this debt is gone, I will be free and clear to be able to buy a house. I live with my parents, I pay them rent, but it is a nominal amount compared to this, so I truly will have pretty much absolute financial freedom once these balances are gone. Hence the desire to set up this channel and start really holding myself accountable for this payoff journey. I'm actually going to make my first payment now because I did get paid today, and that way we can start this series off with some progress. But I'm not going to record anything for the balance decrease until my next statement date because I don't want to guesstimate my interest, even though I should be pretty close. That close date is in a few weeks. And no, I have not set up the budget that this payment is coming out of, but I know exactly what it's going to be, so I'm just going to make it now because it feels good. So we're just going to do it. All right, so that's that payment made, and that will get me under $17,000 on my Chase card. Again, I don't know exactly what my total will be after this posts and my statement period closes, but every $1,000 that we get under is very exciting. I was over $18,000 when I started paying this card down, so though it doesn't seem like it, we have made some progress. Small progress, but still progress. So what's next? I'm going to set up a paycheck budget since I did get paid today, so expect that video in the next few days. I'm undecided on how frequently I'm going to film updates for this. It'll be at least every other week because I'm going to try to do a video for every new paycheck budget, even though they're all going to be pretty predictable for the most part and therefore not very exciting. But there may be some standalone balance check-ins and things of that nature. We'll see. I don't really know since this is the first time I'm ever doing something like this. If you decide you want to ride this roller coaster with me, then welcome. If you don't, that's cool too. I'm really filming these videos for myself, but I welcome any company that does decide to join me. I'll see you guys in my next video, and until then, here is some life, not financial advice. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Bye!